All right, so we're going to session 2. Tonight, we're going to go ahead and get into the do's and don'ts, right? Do's and don'ts of real estate. I mean, you've because it's all fun and games until someone gets a Trek complaint. Now, I will tell you that I've been in business for a long time. I've done, let's see, 25 years. I said last night, going on 26. It seems crazy because I know I definitely don't look as old as I am. So so please don't let that throw you. But I do know that here. I've never, in a knock on wood, I knock on wood, and thank God that I have not had an actual complaint lodged against me personally, and that's probably because I'm very careful, and because I tell everybody it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I've dodged bullets my whole life, even though when I was producing and throwing out a lot of real estate, I was very careful, and so that's the idea. I know how to be careful, I know how to stay out of trouble, because nothing takes the wind out of your sails than when you get a complaint. And that's happened to so many people that I know, and actually help the people, and I help people every day. We get, when you work with a company like EXP, or like what I was before, you work with a lot of agents, you have an opportunity to work with a lot of different complaints and different things, not just complaints. I use complaints as a catch-all, but there's so much more that we have to look out for, guys, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So hold on to your hats. But before we do, remember last night I asked you to do this, to write down on a piece of paper or a card that I will do. You make your promise to yourself, and this one's the example. I will make 20 new contacts each and every day and won't quit until I achieve my goals. If you can write something out like this, based on what you learned last night, what you will do to help your business, that is an activity that's going to help your business, but that you have a hard time committing to, write it down on a card and write down in the corner, because I said I would. Take a selfie and post it on Workplace or Facebook where everybody can see it. And that way we would all be inspired by you. And maybe you'll inspire somebody else to do the same thing, because we want to make those promises to ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. Okay. So this is our agenda tonight. We're going to talk about navigating the terrain of success. We're going to navigate the terrain of success here. And I think one second here, we're going to get this. Once everybody, I think we're getting a lot more people coming on, and I think they're unmuted when they come in, and I'm trying to fix that. So this will be the last time, my last interruption, and then I'll just keep on going whether we're making noise or not. Okay, just don't use any profanity or yell at your kids, because it's really freaky on this end. And it hurts my ears, man. One night I had a lady scream at her children, and I'm like, gosh, I mean, it's up to you if you want to scream at your children, but man, that was loud. It hurt my ears. I'm sure it hurt everybody's ears. So tonight's agenda is to navigate the terrain of success, most common reasons agents get sued, transaction challenges, and contract errors. So we have a lot to cover, and we're going to try to get through it in a good pace. So the mission is always to have fun, make money, and stay out of trouble. Those are the 3 things I tell everybody. My job is to help you.
Your video is off. Your video is off.
Hold on a second. Thank you so much. Everything is working oddly tonight, because you weren't supposed to be able to say that, but I guess it's a good thing you did. If for some reason it's not wanting to work with me. How about now? What do you see?
Yeah, it works now.
It says today's agenda?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. And I know it just went back. We're having some major problems, I think, because people are still popping on. So I'm trying to get to a point where I'm just going to keep going and not get distracted, but it pops out. All right. So have fun, make money, and stay out of trouble. That's the agenda, right? And that's my mission statement. And so if I could help agents make money and stay out of trouble and have a lot of fun, then I've succeeded. So navigating the deep waters of success is what I train on in this class, because the further you go out into the deep waters, the more treacherous the water becomes. The more transactions you do, the more opportunity you have for issues. And I'm telling you, by the time you get through this class, you're going to know what it's like to to have a direction and a clear path to do 20 to 30, 40 transactions a year, if not more. And because that's where we're going. And don't say you can't do it, because I know you can. Because if somebody can do it, you can do it. There's nobody in this world in real estate that's any better than you. You just need to believe it and take the action steps. And we're going to give you the action steps to do it, just got to get out there and get it done. So believe in yourself and believe me when I tell you, you're going to be slinging a lot of real estate. So we're going to have to make sure that you're safe. So what the heck are we looking out for? We always know we're looking out for Trek. Trek is always lurking around the corner. And the truth is, Trek is not out to get us per se, even though I say that a lot because, you know, it sounds very paranoid that people are out to get us. But the truth is, Trek takes care of the consumers, and everybody throws that around. And Trek does not want to fine us. They don't want to ding us in any way, but sometimes they have to, especially if we do something wrong. So I'm pretty good at answering those things and making sure that we don't get in any trouble. And I don't live in fear of losing my license because I definitely know how to answer and respond to complaints. So guys, if you have one, don't freak out, but it's no big deal. We'll get through it. The only time it's a big deal is if you're a criminal and you were trying to do something shady, and then it's going to come out. You know, you can't, if you don't have any integrity, you can bet that Trek is going to find out who did the wrong thing. Same thing with TXR. TXR, formerly TAR, is Texas Realtors is a Texas Association of Realtors that they govern our code of ethics. So if you have an agent problem, an agent has a problem with you, you may just get brought up on a violation through TAR, TXR, and then that's even more of a pain in the neck than Trek, because you go through months of discovery, and then you have to go sit in front of a jury made up, or it's not really a jury, but it's a council of your peers, which are usually the other people that you may have done deals with that may not have liked you, and you're sitting there sweating bullets because now they're going to be judging you and deciding whether you did something wrong or not. So those are good lessons, just to be nice to everybody, because you never know if they're going to have your fate in their hands. And then DTPA, this Deceptive Trade Practices Act. You know, these are the other things that we don't think about. We have Trek, we have TXR, and just let me clear this up. I'm not an attorney, nor do I give any legal advice, but I will tell you everything we talk about tonight are things that I have been personally involved in with agents, and it looks like it's not real, but I promise you, all these stories are true, but the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Okay, so CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, RESPA, our Real Estate Settlement Procedure, Fair Housing. The Attorney General can come down on you, which is never fun when you have the Attorney General of the state or federal. Local authorities, threats of bodily harm, lawsuits, license revocation, fines, and yes, I know agents who have gone to jail when nobody wants to do that, right? So, but before we really get into those things, we want to make sure, I'm going to give you 3 things on the next few slides that you can really do to help yourself, right? Help yourself do the right thing. Because nothing makes your life more, I guess, or leaves room for mistakes than being unorganized. If you're unorganized and disheveled, and you probably know what I'm talking about. You see agents that you ask them, "Hey, how you doing?" You're like, "Oh my God, I'm just so tired. What have you been doing?" "I've been showing houses all day. I had to go to an inspection. and they go on and on, and they look like they've just been through the ringer. And then you ask them how many deals they're closing, and they're like, "I closed one this year." But the truth is, they just don't know how to prioritize. So we need to prioritize our business and take care of our business as the most important things first every day. If you'll prioritize and schedule, like we talked about last night, use a schedule, time block, and do the most important things on your schedule first, and set expectations with yourself, with your family, and your clients, then life will be a lot different for you. You'll find out that you don't have to say yes to everything. When you set expectations up front, agents that say I work 24/7, you're lying, first of all. Second of all, you're setting expectations that you're never going to be able to meet. And come call me. I'm there anytime you need me. Because you're so desperate to get a deal, you have to tell them I work 24/7. I'm always available. But the first time they call you at 10 o'clock after they've had a few, you get upset, but you told them that they could. Or they expect you to be available, Johnny, on the spot. So you have 10 people that you've told that you're available all the time, which are really poor expectations. And no wonder you're going crazy. And you're trying to take care of everything. And when things are going crazy like that in your brain, and you're trying to keep up with things like a dog chasing his tail, it's really easy to let to let mistakes come in. And that's usually what happens when any of these things we just talked about, if we have an infraction of any kind, it's usually a mistake. Now, sometimes I've ran into agents who just, number one, they were just really stupid, or they were criminally challenged, right? Or so they had criminal tendencies. So, but most of us, we just make mistakes. And if we prioritize and schedule and set the proper expectations with everybody, we'll find that our mistakes are fewer and far between. Because what we're trying to do is create a repeatable, duplicatable process. You see somebody playing the piano or playing the guitar really well. One of my guitar heroes, Eddie Van Halen, passed away recently. If you ever watched Eddie Van Halen or any of his people like him play the guitar, it's like it's rolling off a log, right? He puts his fingers exactly where they're supposed to be. He picks everything like it's supposed to be. He doesn't have to think about it. So he makes very few mistakes, even though what he's playing is very intricate, because he's done it so many times the same way. This is why I say that we have to have a process. We have to have a system, because when you do something the same way over and over and over, number one, you get really good at it, and you don't even have to really think about it. So you're not trying to squeeze other thoughts in and leaving room for mistakes. You're not going to make a lot of mistakes when you're doing the same thing over and over. It becomes a duplicatable process. And in the processes we're going to learn over the next few days, you're going to be able to implement immediately, and it's going to make you more money, and it's going to leave a lot less room for issues that we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, another 3 things you need to do is, number one, know your role. Know who you are in this transaction. And we're going to talk about that. You are not, number one, you're not a contractor. You're not a mechanic. You're not a carpenter. You're not an AC guy. You're not an inspector. You're not a lender. You're not a title bro. You are a realtor. You have to stay in your lane. And one of the things that comes out in the code of ethics, it says when agents are performing, or realtors are performing outside the scope of a realtor, that's when you're going to get in trouble. They mentioned that several times in the code of ethics. So make sure that you're staying in your lane. I went to Whataburger last night. They remind me every time I go, stay in your lane and pull forward. That's what you need to do. Stay in your lane and move forward. And do that with everything. Don't try to take on more than you should. Know who you are. Stay in your lane. And then whatever happens, one of the reasons that I've stayed out of trouble is because I save every email and I document every conversation I have. And if I don't have a conversation to document, I document my actions. I document what happens. I don't just let it go. And that's not a big deal. To me, everything is a big deal. And I'm going to be the person that has all of the paper and all of the, because there's a adage that you can count on. If you get called into TREC, court, or TAR, the one with the most paper wins. The one with the most documentation is going to win every time, because you can accuse me all day long, but if I'm the guy that has a bookload of documentation and the person who's accusing me has none, which is usually the case, then who wins? I win. The person with the most documentation is going to win every time. So make sure that you're documenting everything, and we'll talk more about that. If you can do these things that we just talked about, we can start eliminating the stress. And eliminating the stress, you know that stress causes a chemical in your brain called cortisol, right? And have you ever gotten so stressed out that you couldn't even remember your name, or gotten really nervous you couldn't remember the name of the words to a song, or you're trying to make, what was that person's name, and you're nervous, you're trying to come up with the words? I've seen people that were trying to recite a poem, they got nervous, or recite something in a contest, they got nervous and they couldn't even remember how to start, or they lost their place and they could have got. It's the cortisol that goes into your brain when you get stressed. So you need to eliminate stress so you can think clearly, right? Not only that, you'll be a lot less, your health will increase tremendously. But if you can create processes and have a repeatable, duplicatable business, and setting the right expectations and staying in your lane, knowing your role, stay in your lane, and do what you should be doing in a clear, again, repeatable, duplicatable fashion, you'll start erasing the stress and your life will be a lot easier. So we're going to talk about common pitfalls to avoid, right? This is my, I don't normally quote myself, but this is what I really believe, is that real estate is a lot like playing football in a cow pasture. It can be a lot of fun, but if you don't watch your step, you're going to wind up in a lot of shit, right? So that is actually what's going to happen. Excuse my language, but that's what, that we can say cow patties if you want to, but the truth is you got to watch your step. I don't want anybody to walk around in fear of what's going to happen to them. What I want you to do is be very cautious and know, that's why we're going to talk about tonight, know the things that we have to watch out for so that we can have fun, make a lot of money, and stay out of trouble. Okay, so let's talk about who's out to get me. That's what I said earlier. I'm not paranoid. I just know everybody's out to get me, right? So first is other agents, especially us EXP guys, right? We have a target on our back because nobody likes us, because the brokers out there have been brainwashing their agents against us for time immemorial. Ever since about 3-4 years ago, when we really started making some traction. So the brokers don't like us, other agents don't like us, our competition doesn't like us. And when we leave a brokerage, we become public enemy number one, right? I was going to say public enemy, which is weird. So, but public enemy number one, you want is your other agents. And not just other agents that you left their company. It can be other agents that's your competition, people that just look at your advertising and go, wow, this person's advertising way better than I am. I don't like them. Or they just don't like that you're doing well in the business, or they don't like the way you look. You never know. There are agents out there that I believe have no lives whatsoever. This is what the next one. Agents without production or lives of their own are always looking for ways to bring somebody else down. Industry watchdogs. There are people, now there's no offense to people who are involved in the politics of the real estate business. We need those folks, but there are people out there who think of themselves as industry watchdogs, and they don't know you from Adam, but they can see what they look at, and they see that anything that you're doing and they don't like it. They know exactly, they've written 100 or 200 or so different complaints in their lifetime, and they'll throw a complaint out to TREC or a TAR on you in a heartbeat just because they don't like what you're doing. Again, your competition is a big one. You know, if you're competing with somebody, or if you're on the other side of a transaction and they don't like how it went, because I know that you guys are all super sweet and never say anything ugly to anybody, but not everybody's like that, right? And so sometimes you kind of get at odds with the people on the other side, or either on the other side or competition or something, and they can throw any type of complaint they want at you if they can find it, right? People you pissed off. I mean, it doesn't have to be an agent. It could be anybody, because TREC allows anybody to file a complaint. It's free, and any complaint that's filed has to be investigated. And that's the bad thing about complaints. When they are filed, I have to, and you have to stop what we're doing and respond, whether we think they're frivolous or not. And that's the thing that takes the wind out of your sails. People looking for easy money. If there are some people out there who should be wearing a tag that says, hello, I'm here to sue you, right? Because they see there's clients, past clients, new clients, people that are just looking for ways to find something that you did wrong so that they can sue your E&O, or they can try to sue to quit making payments or get some money out of you. They have no loyalty. And if you think that people like you more than they like money, you better think again, because you could think that your friends, family, loved ones, or people that you've known forever, or the people you really click with, would never do anything. And so you take a few shortcuts here and there. The minute they think, wow, this agent should be doing this, I think I'm going to sue them, right? That is, and I've even heard them say this, Rick, no offense to you, because we really like you, but my lawyer says we need to sue you because you have E&O insurance. So we're not really suing you, we're suing your E&O insurance. And I'm like, hey, thanks, that's great, thank you so much. And then, or like I said earlier, your old broker. And here's one that people don't think of: your ex or your soon-to-be ex. Please don't talk about stuff that, especially if you're doing some gray area stuff and that you don't want your broker to know about and you don't want anybody to know about. You probably shouldn't be sharing it with your ex unless you think you're going to go to the grave with these people, because the minute that you break up with them, they are going to call me and say, do you know what kind of person that you have working for your company? And I say that because it happens all the time. I hate those kind of calls. I have dissertation emails that people have emailed me. I just wanted you to know the type of person that Tony is, or that Rhonda is. Let me give you how awful they are. And then they air out all their dirty laundry and tell me how crooked, quote unquote, you are, or whatever. And I don't believe it, because I know what scorned people are like, but it's never fun to have to fight that type of thing. So one of the things that we really have to watch out for that they can get us on, right? The easiest thing to get us on is advertising. So it goes without saying, I do this in every orientation. So all the new people have been taught the main things about advertising. When you have a social media, any ads that you're running, websites, any website, and social media is included in the website. If you have a Facebook business pages, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, if you have those, we'll gather together. We'll pray for you later. But if you have them, you have to have your advertising. It have to be correct, because you're a real estate agent. You're going to be talking about real estate somehow. So you need to make sure they're compliant with TREC, or if someone finds it, they're going to go, look at here, this guy is not compliant. I'm going to send in a complaint. Your name has to be correct. Team name. So let's talk real quick about that. Social media, just make sure your IABS and your CPN on it are everything, consumer protection notice. Make sure that your name is correct, that you're not using an alias that's not registered with TREC. If your name is James Holly and you're going by Bubba and nobody knows you by anything other than Bubba, make sure you register the name Bubba with TREC, so that when someone looks you up, Bubba's there, right? Because they will turn you in for that. It's happened before. Ads, any ads that you create have to be compliant with TREC. And when I say compliant with TREC, you have to have your real name, have the brokerage name on there, which is eXp Realty. It doesn't have to say brokered by eXp, but you can. It depends on what you like. As long as it has eXp Realty on there, you're fine. As long as it's 50% the size of your phone number. And you can find all these rules on TREC. But the truth is, we have to go and make sure that you're doing everything right. Any website that you Google yourself and you find your name on a website you created a year or two ago or longer, if you're not using it, just delete it. And if you are using it, make sure the IBS is up to date, the CPN and your name is correct, and eXp Realty's on there, because you will get hit bigger than that quicker by doing that. And you get one or two people that do that. If you don't change it the first time, and then they come back and get you again, you will get fined up to $4,000 or $5,000, $10,000, because they'll fine you up to $3,000 a day per violation. And you don't want that to happen. Your names, again, now if you have a team name, if your name, now I go by Rick Tankersley. Most of my advertising has been under Rick Tankersley. I also have a real estate team that I call Tankersley Real Estate. I had to add Tankersley Real Estate. I had to add the name group to it because I had to be TREC compliant. If you're with a brokerage and you have a team, group or team have to be on the end of that in order to advertise it. And then it has to be registered with TREC. So make sure you have your team name correct, and before you're advertising. Some of you guys may be advertising team names that are not compliant. And it's only a matter of time before somebody turns you in. I promise you, we get them all the time. Any signs you have out there, I know it's very cool that you're the number one head honcho, Jefe Grande, and you're up there and you're like, this is me, I don't belong to a brokerage, and you put your brokerage name way at the bitty bottom. Make sure you have the brokerage name, make sure you're using your real name, and make sure it looks like it's TREC compliant, because if it's not, that's a big deal. Signs and billboards and everything that agents drive by and they're like, look at that, that's not right, I'm going to turn them in. Once in a while, I get a broker or an agent email me or tell me how awful you guys are doing, but most of the time they go straight to TREC. Flyers, same thing. Even if you're making quick flyers, one-off flyers, they have to be compliant. And again, I put websites on there twice, but I guess we'll just say because it's just as important the second time around. All right, so make sure that you are in advertising. Let's talk about disclosures real quick. These are the things that will get you in trouble really quick. And I need to cover these things, because if you know, number one, of a material defect, you are obligated to have your seller disclose that, or disclose it yourself. And you have to have that conversation with your seller. If they say, well, let's not tell anybody about that, you hold on a second there, partner. We cannot lie and we can't hide a material defect. So make sure that if your client says, well, we don't want to tell anybody about that, say, well, if you don't, I have to. Unfortunately, we have to disclose. You will get in trouble so quick if you knew about something and you didn't disclose it. Your client will get sued, and nobody wants that. Same thing with any issues that are with the house, you have to disclose. If you're having issues with anything going on with the home that you think are going to put a hold on the closing, and when I say issues, it could be something like the house is about to go into foreclosure, but you didn't tell anybody, and while you're in closing, you're trying to get to closing. Bank of America says, hey, we're gonna foreclose, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then you go, no, we're going to close in 2 days. They say, well, talk to our asset manager because we're just doing our job. And they're not going to listen to you a lot of times. And then they're going to come back. The buyer's going to say, well, did you know about this? Maybe, but you did know about it. So you should, your client has to make sure that that's being disclosed. And if you know about it, you have to disclose it. And so again, make sure you, and when you're doing a deal with especially with investors, people who have renovated houses, but anybody who's added on per se, it could be a person who's lived in the house forever. And there's add-ons on the house, or there's an investor who's basically renovated the house and you're selling it, you're flipping it for them, helping them flip it. Make sure that they have all their permits, because the last thing you want is to sell this house and then turn around and then the buyer can't get their information, they can't get their lights or anything turned on, or any of their utilities, because you went and sold them a house that had no permits. And whether you do it or not, it's going to cause a problem. I'm going to put you on hold for 1 second. I don't know why my mute button is not working, guys. Would you guys please put yourselves on mute? I'd really appreciate it. All right, so now we're going to move on to international challenges. This has just happened today, so this is fun. Let's talk about international challenges. We love working with foreign citizens. It's fantastic because they're moving here, they're buying, they're selling, and we want to help them. And that's the thing. But we have to understand that there are some challenges when we're working with people from other countries, because they do real estate differently in other countries. That's really all it comes down to. There are lots of cultural differences. I don't care if they come from Europe or Asia or South America or Mexico. They all have different ways of doing business, and most of them don't do business with realtors the way we do. I mean, if you go and look at the way realtors are paid, we are paid really well compared to a lot of the realtors in other parts of the country. So a lot of times the people who are here, they're foreign, they're not American citizens, they're not used to the way we do business. They don't think we're worth the money. And I can almost guarantee you that if I'm doing business with somebody, I'm expecting them, an international client, I'm expecting them for everything to be great and to write about closing. And then they're going to tell me, I'm not going to close unless you cut your commission. And I'm going to say, excuse me. So I'm ready for that though. So they don't know. And then, but let's talk about this real quick, right? FIRPTA, right? It's the tax holdback, paragraph 20 of the contract. It says that if you're a foreign national, or if you're a foreign person that owns a property here and you sell it, there's going to be a tax holdback when they sell it. And that tax holdback is 10%, okay? 10% of that. We have one right now. Luckily, we're not the seller, we're the buyer, but it's not so lucky for a buyer because the seller now, the other agent didn't explain it to them. They just had them sign the contract. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they put it through the DocuSign and had them sign it without even reading it. But paragraph 20 states very clearly that if you're not from the United States, you sell a house, there's going to be a tax holdback, and that holdback is 20%. If it's 300,000, this house is well over 300,000. It's going to cost them $30,000 in holdback. So this guy's ticked off. The seller's ticked off. I'm not going to pay it. I'm not going to pay it. And he refuses to close. So today we had to get an attorney, had to tell our clients to call an attorney because the seller or the seller agent is not listening to us. And so this seller agent could easily be in trouble for not taking care of their client, for misrepresenting their client, and for losing this deal, for not explaining it to them, and for causing this deal to fall through. Now, the seller is probably not going to like his agent very well after the lawyer that we referred gets through him, because the lawyer we referred to him is a very tough guy, and he said we're gonna take them from everything they got. That's what he said, and I don't want to be on the other side of that. I've been on the other side of that with agents before that didn't explain it to their client, and we have to try to make it right somehow. And we have to fall on our sword and say, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but this is just the way it is. You have to do this. You should have read the contract. But in order to really overcome that, just explain to your client, if you know it's an international client, let them know when you sell a property, there's going to be a there's going to be a 10% holdback. Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to put you on pause. I'm going to put it on pause for one more second. We're having some. Okay.
Hey, Rick, JD Tomlin here.
Hey, JD.
I'm going to be the bad guy. Folks, if you're on this call, mute your computer. I'm a veteran agent. I know there's other veteran agents on here. You're learning so much, but it's a distraction if you're not muted. So please mute or get off the call. Rick, thanks so much for your leadership.
problem. No problem. And what we normally have is if something's going on with the program tonight, it's not allowing me to mute everybody. So please self-mute, govern yourself, please, and mute yourself so that we can get through this. So sorry for the distractions, but we're going to move forward. All right. So with that being said, FIRPTA is a big deal, and you've got to make sure if you're working with a seller, especially, that is a.
Hey, Rick, your screen's off again.
Oh, I know. I'm going back there in just a second. I'm just speaking.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. But if you are doing that, make sure working with an international client, make sure they understand there's going to be a holdback. Okay. Because this is going to get you a lot of trouble. It could get you in trouble for not just your client files a complaint. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that you didn't explain it to your client. All right, let's talk about open houses real quick. There's a lot of different, obviously, lots of different things here. When you have an open house, there's a reason that we don't allow the the reason we don't allow companies to do other open houses for us, or we don't do companies for other open houses for other companies, and that's because they have no agency agreement. And the agency agreement, we could get in a lot of trouble if something happens at the house and we didn't have an agreement with something in writing with them, right? With EXP, we have a blanket agreement that says we're indemnified. We're not liable for anything that happens to the house, but we don't have that if we're doing that for a KW house. So we have to be careful with what we're doing and cross open houses. God knows we should have plenty of open houses to do that ourselves, right? Don't talk to the seller. If you're doing an open house for somebody, even if it's an EXP agent, don't talk to the seller. Just say, hello, how are you? And then don't engage in conversation, because if you start engaging in conversation, this happened just recently. A seller comes and tells their agent, hey, that person that was in an open house for us said that you're not doing your job. They said that your house is overpriced and that they could do a better job for you. Well, I think the person who told them that they exaggerated that is what. But still they wouldn't have had anything to exaggerate had the seller not talked to the open house agent. So when you're doing that, don't leave any room for someone to exaggerate what you said, and especially don't ever say anything bad about the agent that is listing the house. Just make sure that you have very limited conversations with the seller and keep yourself out of trouble. Don't leave your marketing materials in the home either. Don't leave the marketing materials that say that you're #1 bestseller or all that good stuff, because then it looks like you're trying to bait the seller into using you instead of the agent who allowed you to do an open house that week. So first of all, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Honor the person who's allowing you to do an open house at their home, at their listing, and then be professional and courteous, and don't try to snake a client, because #1, that is a TAR violation, and you can get a code of ethics violation. And if I find out about it, you'll be gone. Because I don't believe in people being unethical. So we have to, we don't want you to be gone. We want to grow, but you have to make sure you stay out of trouble and doing open houses. And for God's sakes, don't ever have a conversation with the seller and then call them back later, say, hey, how's it going? Is house sale yet? That is not your place. You're there to do an open house, to pick up buyers. And if you're not the listing agent, please do not call the seller ever again until that house is expired or sold, because it's just as bad for you, and actually worse for you to call another EXP agent's client than it is for somebody else to, because it just looks like you're doing shady stuff. Okay. Now here's one. If you're going out on a showing, even if it says go and show or that it's vacant, please do yourself a favor and me a favor and just go on showing time, or whatever your method is of scheduling the showing, and schedule it. Just say, I'm going to be in the house from 1 to 2 today. And even if the showing time or the agent says, hey, it's a going show, it's cool, you go, it's vacant, you can go see it. Say, I just wanted to let you guys know. I'll be there from 1 to 2. And that's great. First of all, they'll like the courtesy. But secondly, if the other agent put the wrong stuff in there, you won't walk in on any naked people, right? That's the thing. Or you won't get shot when someone's hanging out at the house thinking that that there's nobody coming over, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, or not a knock, or someone's prowling around their house and they didn't know they were coming. And that happens more often than you would think. The other agent will say it's a going show, but it's not. And you can get in a lot of trouble by walking into a house that the seller is there and they didn't know you were coming. So whenever, no matter, even if it says it's vacant, please knock on the door and say the realtor's here or something like that. That way you don't walk in on anything that you don't want to see, right? All right, this is another thing that happened this weekend. Now, if you were in my class a few weeks ago, you saw that I did not put this together. This happens too often, and it just happened again this weekend, okay? Pictures, video, and security cameras. Let's talk about that for a minute. You cannot take pictures or video of a house, inside or out, to post online without permission from the listing agent or the seller, okay? Yeah, the listing agent has permission to do it, to advertise the house, obviously, in their listing agreement. If you go out and start taking pictures inside and outside the house with the intent to post those and say, hey, come out and see this house, then you are violating their privacy. You have to ask for permission. And normally, if you ask for permission, you can get it. And I would highly recommend asking for permission in text or in email form. Don't call them and say, hey, I'm going to take pictures, because if the seller gets mad and then they get mad at that listing agent and they say, hey, why'd you let these people in our house? Why'd you let them post our pictures online? I saw our pictures online and I don't like the way our house looks there. And I don't think they should have done that. The agent's going to lie and say, oh, I didn't tell them. I'm going to have to go and get on to them. Because that's the first thing we do to for self-preservation is to lie, right? We're going to lie. I'm not going to lie, but they're going to lie on you. But they can't if you have a text or a email. That's why you document everything. Don't market listings without permission. Now, the IDX there was a lawsuit many years ago. That's how Zillow came about, that people can advertise any public listing, right? And especially within our own company, we could probably just, as an EXP agent, go ahead and post all of our listings, no matter who the seller or the seller's agent is, right? But out of courtesy, you should contact the agent, say, hey, I would like to use your listing to advertise. I love the area. I love the price point or whatever it might be. Do you mind if I use it to advertise, to try to pick up some buyers for you? And if they're okay with it, that's great. And do a text or email, right? And if they're not, then just move on. There's lots of listings out there. I mean, even though we're low inventory, there's still plenty to advertise. Just get their information, get their buy-in, because if you don't, again, it could come back to their seller being upset about it, or them being upset at you because you did it without permission, and it could turn into some type of crazy violation. I've seen it happen more than once, that another agent files a complaint against another one just to stay face with their seller. Okay, and here's a big one. There are security cameras in a lot of houses, and usually the nicer the house, the more security cameras there are. Now, there are houses that are small little houses. They've got those spy cameras, right? And this happened this weekend. It wasn't a real expensive house, a nice house, but it wasn't super expensive. But there were spy cameras in this house, and an agent had went and put in a request to show, and they went and saw the house. And to make things worse, there were a lot of instructions in there that said, we're worried about COVID. The seller's worried about COVID. Please wear your masks the whole time and make sure everything is nice and clean and sanitary. Well, these people went in, they had no buyer with them, and they were doing a photo shoot. And so guess who got it all on camera? The seller. And guess who was really, really upset because they let their house open and they didn't wear masks or anything, and they knew they didn't wear masks. Now, that's probably a mild case, because we have had cases of people doing, going into houses because they were trying to save money on a hotel, and they didn't want everybody to know where they were, so they would go hang out at the house with people. That is obviously not cool to do. You do that, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. I had a guy one time go out. He scheduled a showing for an hour, and then he comes back and he comes back and he schedules it for 2 hours. And the sellers got curious. They're like, why is this guy asking for another showing? Why does he need it for 2 hours? They go back out there. It's a really, really nice house. And this guy has his wife and his kids there and a photographer with all the lighting doing a family photo shoot in this guy's house. So you can imagine how upset they were and how much trouble this agent was in, how angry they were at us. All we could do was, just sit back and wait for the complaints to come in, and they did. And I think that agent had to leave. And the one that really had to leave was the guy who was a very young guy. He thought he was real cool. It's really funny that so many agents are like, I'm a realtor because I couldn't make it as a model, right? But so you want to make sure that, quit taking pictures of yourself in the wrong places. That's all I can say. Don't be stupid. This guy goes into this house, real nice house, and he's trying to be cool and on TikTok or Instagram or something. He gets up, he stands up on their island, and he's talking about himself, about how great he is and how awesome these houses are he sells. And he wasn't even the selling agent. And he posted all over Instagram and different places. And guess who saw it? The seller saw it. And they called us immediately. They say, what the hell are you guys doing with my house? You guys are going to pay for this. You're messing up my house. You're making my house look cheap and tawdry. And this idiot is doing this. And so they had all kinds of nice words to say. So we had to call the agent, and we're like, man, how dumb can you be? Please don't do that. We didn't say how dumb you could be. We were very nice. We said, please don't do this. This is not something you should do. And we tried to counsel them and tell them, please take down all the pictures and don't do that again. And he said, okay, no problem. He didn't like it. You could tell he didn't like it, but he didn't think he did anything wrong. And that worries me when I tell an agent that they did something wrong, and then they don't think they did, because trust me, I don't want to talk to people about things they did wrong. I'm the guy who wants to tell you how awesome you are, not how dumb you are. That's the thing. But sometimes I have to, right? So we talked to him, and then the next day he posted the pictures again. And of course the seller saw it again, and we had no choice at that point other than to part company. And it saved us when the Trek complaint came in. We told them we had to fire him, and they were okay with us. Okay. So moving on. Don't take pictures in places where you shouldn't be taking pictures. Submit every offer. And when I say submit every offer as soon as you get it. Right now we are living in a crazy time, right? They were talking in the meeting this morning about how many offers we get on every property. And I understand, but you need to submit those offers in the order they come in. And because that's what the procedure is in the code of ethics. And you can even tell your client, look, I'm going to give these to you as they come in. You don't have to look at them right now. You can do what you want to with them, but I have to be able to prove that I gave you this offer when I received it. Okay. Please stop making decisions for your client. Please stop telling people that I'm going to hold on to these offers and I'll get 5 of them and I'll give them to you. And then you can just send them to them immediately. Get them out of your hands. You don't want these people to have any reason to come back at you and say, well, I didn't see this offer in time, so I took this other one. There was a case where a seller and a buyer got together because the buyer was like, I haven't heard anything from this. And the agent was non-responsive. They weren't getting back to him. And I think they may have already taken another offer, but the buyer went and said, hey, and they took it in their own hands. They went and talked to the seller, and they said, we hate to bother you, but we submitted a really good offer, and we wonder why you didn't accept it. And it was very bold of them to do it, but they did it. And they said, well, we don't remember seeing your name or your offer. We didn't get one that was that high. And they said, oh my gosh, yeah, we submitted it like 3 weeks ago. And then the seller started asking the agent. They've come to find out the agent was not submitting all of the offers to them. And so that agent, guess what happened? That agent, not only did their broker get hit really hard, but this agent lost their license and was put on probation for 10 years. They can still practice, but they're on probation. If they do anything wrong at all, their license is taken away. And it says everywhere, if you go and look at the Trek Advisor and on Trek, it says their license has been revoked and they're on probationary status. And that's not something, that's one of the main reasons I never want to get in trouble, because I don't want people to go and say, hey, look what Rick did. Rick must have done something really bad because he's been suspended for 10 years. You don't want to do that, guys. You want to make sure you're not holding offers. And I know it's really hard right now, but you have to let clients know, hey, I'm going to submit this to you. You can look at these when you're ready, and we can talk about them when you're ready, but I'm going to send them over to you just to get them out of my out of my queue and into yours. Okay. So get offers in writing. Please, again, quit trying to take offers. If we have way too many offers coming in for you to negotiate over the phone, and everybody's like, well, and I've been doing this for a long time. I know what it's like. I want to negotiate over the phone and say, okay, now that we've got a deal, go ahead and send me that offer. But you know what happens, right? You know where I'm going with this. What happens is we get a deal on the phone with this agent, and before I get back to my house or get back to my computer to get this offer, or they hem and haw a little bit before they get the buyer to sign it, I get a really badass offer, and so my seller wants to take it. And now I look like I'm unethical and I have all these problems because you took this other offer. It wasn't in writing. And so either side, it doesn't work well for everybody. The seller's going to win because they get a better offer, but you and the other side are left out, trying to figure it all out. So make sure you're getting offers in writing, and then counter in writing. Do a counter writing, get everything back and forth. And I know it's a pain. I know you don't like doing it. Oh, I got to fill out a paper. Are you kidding me? Well, yeah, you're going to make 20 grand on this deal. I think you could fill out a few papers, right? And let's do it the right way so it doesn't come back to bite you, because it's all fun and games until it comes back to get you, right? And it never happens right away. That's the thing about it. It doesn't happen while you're doing it, unless you're doing something really stupid like this other stuff we talked about. It's usually after the fact, and after they've put it all together, and then someone says, hey, I don't think this worked out right. I'm going to get a hold of Trek. And the next thing you know, you're getting slapped with either a Trek complaint or a lawsuit or both. Now, I'll tell you this, that lawyers, if they get a lawyer, the first thing they're going to tell them is that, well, you need to go ahead and submit a Trek complaint. I'll help you with that because that'll help our case. Just like a ambulance chaser will tell you, you need to call the hospital, go to the hospital so we can get you more money. So they tell you that. So file a Trek complaint so we can show that you're really serious. And so you'll get a Trek complaint and a lawsuit if you're not careful. So please get everything in writing. Real quick, I'm going to talk about investors because this is a whole other animal. There's a ton of them out there. Now, we use the word investor loosely, right? Because there are some really good investors. We have good investors that work with us as agents. I love investing. I love investing myself. I don't call myself an investor. I call myself a broker, but there are people who their claim to fame is they're an investor. And agents are always talking about, I have an investor I'm working with. Okay, well, first of all, ask them how long they've been investing. Always find out, how long have you been an investor? How long have you been flipping houses? How long have you been buying and holding or whatever they're doing? And if they say, well, I just took a Montelongo class, or I just went to flip this house and I paid $10,000 to take this course, and I feel pretty confident, I would run away from those people because they're going to get you in trouble, and they're going to use you and abuse you, and just to throw out lowball offers, right? Make sure that they're experienced. That's the bottom line, because if they're not experienced, they're going to do things that are wrong, and you don't want to be hitched to that wagon. Get exhaustive inspections of flips. If you're a buyer and you're selling a flip, please tell your client you need to get really good inspection. We need to get inspections on the general inspection. We need to get a plumbing inspection. We need to get all AC and electrical inspection and make sure all the permits are there. Because if we don't, we will wind up like a lot of them do. Guys, it breaks my heart every day how many lawyers are being called and being put into place because someone sold a house that they said was their inspector, and they said they did everything right, and they didn't. And they tried to hide things, and they put things under the carpet. They didn't. The plumbing was bad. They didn't disclose it. They knew. And just so you guys know, the Texas Property Code 5.008 says that inspectors are not exempt from seller disclosures. They know everything about the house, especially if they've been the one who have just renovated it. They are not exempt. They have to give you a seller disclosure. And so you have to hold on to that, because when those things come back and there's all these things wrong with the house, then they lied, right? Because they usually just scratch through it, say, no, I don't know anything. But they lied because they're the ones who had it fixed. So make sure that you're getting exhaustive inspections before you buy a house, because 3 deals I'm working on in the last 2 months have turned into major loss for clients, because they closed on a house, they moved in, and then they had major plumbing and electrical problems. that the investor, quote unquote, did not want to take responsibility for. So everybody's lawyered up. And when people lawyer up, who loses? The agent, because even though they love you and they say, well, we're not going to sue the agent. Like I said earlier, the lawyer's going to say, yeah, we need to sue everybody that has insurance. If you get in a wreck with somebody who doesn't have insurance, it's too bad, so sad. You're never going to collect. But if they have insurance, the lawyers will go after them all day long. And that's what they do with us. We have a big target on our back because we have insurance. All right. So check mortgage flip timelines, because you have to, if it's an FHA loan, you have to wait 90 days before it can go under contract. Make sure that they don't tell you that. You have to check that yourself if you're the buyer. Be aware of all the activity that's going on. Just be aware and document everything. If you're working with an investor, whether you know them or whether they're your mama or your daddy, make sure that you've documented everything to say that you've done everything right. And don't ever trust anybody. And that goes with all of this. I'm sounding really paranoid, right? But you can't trust them. You have to always look at them with one eye closed, right? To make sure that they are doing the right thing, right? You have to make sure they're doing the right thing. And you have to, because you're tied to them now, and you have to document it, because if it comes back on you and it looks like you were in cahoots with them in any way, you're going to get in trouble. And then you're going to get in trouble. And then I'm going to get in trouble. And I'm really nice, but when I get in trouble, I don't like it. And so, please don't get us in trouble. Okay, look out for the best interest of your client. That's a big deal. And I'll talk about this again later. But if you ever hear this saying come out of your buyer or seller's mouth, I don't think you're looking out for my best interest, please, every red flag should go up, and you should go out and buy them a gift and go say, I'm so sorry that you do feel this way, but I want you to know for sure that I'm on your side, and convince them that you are doing everything for you. Because if they use those words, you're not looking out for my best interest, that means they either Googled you, because they Googled those terms about what realtors' duties are, or they've talked to an attorney, because that's lingo that people use when they're about to sue you. I don't think you're looking out for my best interest. And that's a telltale sign that you're about to get your behind crack, right? So, okay, all parties should be treated fairly. Make sure everything is being disclosed. So that's really what I wanted to say about investors. Representing yourself. Let's talk about that real quick. When you're representing yourself, if you're the seller, you cannot represent the buyer. You cannot be intermediary. It should go without saying, but I have so many people saying, can I be an intermediary if on the house that I'm selling? No, that's a conflict of interest, and your spouse can't either. You have to have somebody else represent you, or leave the buyer unrepresented. There's nothing wrong with the buyer being unrepresented, as long as you're representing the house, and you can do the paperwork, but you can't do an intermediary that says that you're representing them, because it's a conflict of interest, and it's a big, big no-no. Again, representing yourself or your family member, you have to over disclose. Okay. Don't try to hide anything because it's your cousin Joe, right? Cousin Joe needs to make sure he straightens up and flies right, because both of you guys are on the line now, because you have to disclose that you have a relationship with these people. Or if you didn't disclose it and it comes out, then they're really going to get upset, the other side, if they feel like you've hidden something. So make sure you disclose everything. Can't represent a buyer on property you have ownership in. Even if you have an LLC and your LLC owns this property, don't represent the other side, because that's a conflict of interest. And you can't be the power of attorney for a client, and if you want to receive commission. Now, you can offer that service to them, but the minute you say, I'll sign for you, and on the power of attorney, no matter who it is, either family member or no, you can't receive commissions. The title company won't pay you. It's against the law for you to receive commission on something that you signed for. So you have to maybe get an attorney or somebody to do that for your client, and you stay out of that. And then document. It starts with disclose, and document. As you can see, there's a running thing. If there was not such a thing, and I think, no, let me put I need to pause for the cause real quick. Thursday at 1:30, there's going to be a class in meeting room 7. It's going to talk about all the changes to the new contract that go into effect March 1st. So please be there. I'm not going to talk about it this week, but this guy is going to be there, have an attorney coming in to talk about all the changes that are going to be made. And I think they're going to be positive changes, obviously, that are being made to the way we drop off earnest money and option fee to the title company, and a few other things. So make sure you're there, or get the recording. Explain how earnest money works to your client. And when I say explain how earnest money works to your client, tell them, if you don't have this to the title company within 3 days, the seller can terminate. Okay, so you make sure that we have to have this to the seller to the title company within 3 days. And then if the seller can terminate if it's not there, we only ask for the money. We cannot demand. So tell them that. When I say that, it means that it takes two to tango. You cannot get the title company to release money if we can't get both sides to sign. And I can't make them sign. I can't make anyone sign. So please let them know there's never a guarantee. And with that being said, there's been a couple of deals this past week that I haven't been able to update my slides, but people are to try to win offers. They're putting in higher earnest money, and they're using the term non-refundable. You guys know what non-refundable means, right? It means non-refundable. And so if you put non-refundable in a contract and everybody signs and agrees to that, then their buyer's not going to get that money back. And and they always want it back. If things go south, they say it sounds all cool up front. It's kind of like, yeah, I love you, baby, until she asks you to marry him. Then I don't know if I really want to commit, but they already committed, right? You have to be careful what you write in the contract. It's not going to, it looks good maybe that these guys are going to get $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever, that because you went higher on the earnest money, but then you went a step further and said, we'll do non-refundable. How in the world can you put your client's money at risk like that? Because they're 50% of the time these deals fall through, especially in this. I mean, whether it be because of an inspection or because of a permit. And one just this last week was because there was a lien on the property that the investor, quote unquote, didn't tell them about, right? So now you have a lien on a property, the deal's going to fall through, and you're stressing out because you're about to lose this $5,000 for your client, and your clients go, can we please get this money back? We just want to get the money back. And so, yeah, that happens, and you don't want that to happen, guys. Please be very careful writing in non-refundable, and be careful putting a lot more earnest money there. Try to find other ways to sweeten up the deal, because you could tell your client all day long that this deal, if this deal goes south, or if you can't get financing or whatever, then you'll get your money back. And that's maybe true if we can get the other side to sign off on it. If we can't get the other side to sign off, it'll just stay in escrow and then go off to a state fund later down the road. No one will ever get it if we can't come to an agreement. So please make sure that you're being careful with earnest money, because we can fight, but we're never going to win. We can only go so far as running to the end of our chain and barking and trying to scare them into doing the right thing. And if the other side doesn't want to do the right thing, then your seller or buyer, whoever feels like they're wronged, is going to have to go out and get an attorney, and it's going to cost them more probably than the earnest money altogether. So be careful with earnest money. Same thing with option period. Make sure your option, this is part of what's changing, so we're not going to go into this too much, but make sure the option is delivered in the time that the contract gives you, or you'll lose your option period. If you lose it, then your client doesn't understand and they're really upset. If you're going to be working with somebody, right now we're living in the Wild West again. It's like 2005 all over again. Builders don't like you. They're trying to cut you out of deals. Everybody, FSBOs are trying to steal you. Your client has no loyalty to you. So up front, you need to get buyer's rep signed. Don't put it in this file just because you need it in your SkySlope file, because it does you no good then after the contract. You need to do it before you can start showing houses, and make sure they know that, look, hey, I'm going to put this in here. This is a buyer's rep agreement. This is what says that if I'm going to go do everything I can to make sure the seller pays us. And if we can't collect it, it says, okay, collect our 3% from the seller, then you're going to pay it. However, the only reason that would ever happen is if you tried to go around me and circumvent me somehow to keep me from getting paid. And I know you wouldn't do that, right? Oh, I would never do that, Rick. Fantastic. So there's no problem. So just sign right here. And then make sure they understand that if they try to go around you, that they're going to be on the hook for the commission. And that will keep honest people honest, right? That'll keep the builders and the sellers and everybody from trying to go around you and trying to lure your client away. And your client can't go buy a builder and sign up without you. And the builder says, well, you weren't here, so I'm not going to put you on the deal. And then you can say, well, I'm going to get the money from the buyer. He won't be able to pay. He won't be able to afford this house. How about that? That's what we just had to do. We had to go back to a builder and say, well, if you don't put us on the deal as we were supposed to, we're going to enforce the buyer's rep agreement, and we're going to get our money. from them, and then they probably won't want to continue this deal. So which do you want? Do you want to put us on the deal, or do you want to lose this transaction altogether? It took a lot of posturing and a lot of going back and forth, but we got them to put the agent on the deal. So you want to make sure you explain those things. And I already said this is a huge red flag. But look out for the best interest of your client. If you hear this, it's a red flag. Make sure that you stop, regroup, and move forward and document what you did. Because from that point on, man, if you hear, I don't think you're looking out for my best interest, or who do you work for, me or them? If you hear those two things, one of those or the other, make sure you start really paying attention to what's happening, because they're about to lower the boom. All right, inspections and repair amendments. Let's talk about staying in our lane real quick. There is no earthly reason for you to go to inspections. Okay, just so you know, as a broker, I don't want you going to inspections. You probably will still go, and I'm not going to tell you not to, but you're going to, first of all, you're going to waste 3 hours of your day, and you're probably going to say things you shouldn't say. And that's what it comes down to, because you could be at an inspection with a buyer, and the inspection says, hey, this looks like it might have a little bit of foundation issue. And what does the buyer do? They don't go, oh, really? They look at you and they say, is that true? And what are you going to say? I don't know. But no, you go, to save your ego, a lot of times you'll give them some advice. And you shouldn't be giving them advice on inspections, because you're not an inspector. Even if you've been a contractor or a builder for 30 years, you're there in the capacity of a realtor. You should not be giving them advice on the inspection. You say, well, I guess we should get a foundation inspector. I think we should get a plumbing inspector. I recommend other inspections. Let them know you're not there. So if you go to those inspections, you're probably going to wind up putting your foot in your mouth. But if you go, please do not give them any inkling that you know what's happening, that they have to trust the inspector or get further inspections. And don't give any input on the inspection or the inspection report. Buyers will call you, say, hey, I've got this inspection report. What do you think I should ask for? And of course, you're like, well, just ask for this, this, and this. Well, you don't want to do that. You ask them, so what is important to you? What is important to you, and what is it you want to ask for? Well, I don't know. That's why we're asking you. Well, the thing is, I'm not going to live in the house. So what I would do if I were you, I would ask for the things I know are going to cost a lot of money. If it's AC or electrical, or it's going to cause a hazard. If it's going to cost me a lot of money or be a hazard, I'm going to put those first on my list. And then if there's something I really, really want done, I'm going to put that on my list. I'm probably not going to ask for everything, but I'm going to ask for the things I really want. So just look at those and tell me what you really want, and then I will go to bat for you, and I'll negotiate those repairs, because that's my job. Your job is to tell me what you want repaired, and my job is to request it and negotiate it for you. So that's where we need to make sure we're staying in our lane, because if you tell them that they need this and don't need this, they will come back on you after they moved in and something turned into a problem. And they'll say, Rick said that you told me I didn't need this. So I got an attorney, and they said you should not have given us any input because he's not qualified. And I didn't know you weren't qualified. I was trusting you as a realtor. And then all hell breaks loose, right? Because then they say, you used your inspector and then you guys screwed me, right? That's what it always comes down to. And then because we took too much ownership, you said, I'm going to get my inspector to come look at this house. Oh, he's great. My inspector's fantastic. Do you own this inspector? Do you pay this inspector's bills? Do you pay his salary? He's not your inspector. He's some dude that inspects houses, and he comes highly recommended. That's what you need to say. I know of an inspector, or if I know of a few inspectors that come highly recommended, because the minute you say this is my inspector and I'm going to have him come out and look at your house, then I'm going to help you decide what you want fixed on your house. Can you see where I'm going with that? Who's going to be responsible when something happens? You are. You're going to get sued. One of my top producers at my old office, this client had talked about how wonderful she was. She put pictures of Supergirl on her Facebook page talking about her agent. And then she was moving the first house she'd ever bought. She moved to this house and some things weren't going right. So some friends got together with her and they said, oh my gosh, you let them just do this to you? And then she got really upset. She got a lawyer. They sued us. They filed a check complaint. This agent who was slinging real estate like crazy, her world came to a halt because she had never had anything like this happen. And now she's being sued by someone she thought loved her, that she'd been over backwards for. But everything I'm talking about, she did wrong. And she's not the only one. She didn't know. She didn't know she was, and she knew because she'd been through some training. However, we tend to ignore the training that we get because, oh, I'm going to service my client the way I want to service my client. Well, go ahead, Red Ryder, do what you want to do. And then when you get sued, I'm going to go back and show them, I told you not to do this. I have a presentation that says not to do this. So if they did that, they did that on their own. So don't do it, please. I can't defend you if you're doing something against what we've told you not to do. All right. So speaking about that, over servicing is big time. When we talk about it, staying up late or saying that you work 24/7, talking of giving mortgage, title, inspection, or construction advice, not good. Stay in your lane. Talking about lending them money. I have so many agents say, do you think I could front them the money for this, or I could do the repair? Don't do that. That's over servicing. You set bad expectations and things you'll either never get that money back, or something will happen where the lender finds out that you gave them money and you weren't supposed to give them money. And by giving money to a buyer, it could be construed as loan fraud, because they say they have to account for all the money they have in savings. And if you lend them money on something like an earnest money or option fee or anything, you could be perpetrating loan fraud. And that's a federal offense, guys. Do you want to be in federal trouble because you lent a guy $500 to get something done? Because you paid for a repair that he couldn't pay out of his own pocket? Get in it. If you're going to pay for something, which I really don't recommend, make sure you get an invoice, give it to title, and have it taken out of commission at title. And that way the lender sees it, everybody sees it, and it's all on the up and up. Things as simple as mowing grass. I have agents, and it drives me crazy because, number one, I pay people to mow grass. I don't mow grass. Well, I like to service my clients. Well, you're not doing a good job. What you're telling your client by going out mowing grass and doing repairs or whatever on their house is that you don't have value, and you don't have enough value in what you do. So you have to do menial tasks in order to gain their acceptance. But I don't do a $10 an hour job. My time is worth a lot more, but I will help you find great people, and I will help you schedule it if you really want me to, but I'm not going to mow your grass. So sure as world, I'm going to be out mowing grass. I'm going to hit a rock. It's going to sling into the neighbor's yard. It's going to break a window. It's going to hit somebody in the head. And who's going to get in trouble? I mean, that sounds crazy, but it could happen. Or I could hit a pipe and I could cause a big old problem at the house, or something could happen that I'm not even involved in, and they'll blame me because I was the last person at the house. And because there's this one thing you really need to understand, and I should probably make it the name of my autobiography: no good deed goes unpunished. No good deed goes unpunished. You're trying to do good for your client, it's going to turn around and bite you in the butt. So stay in your lane. Be the best darn realtor you definitely can be, and don't be trying to be a lender, a title company, an inspector, a construction, a landscaper, or a home maintenance or repair. Or definitely don't go in there. I have an agent, and I'm like, please stop mopping the floors. Let them pay someone $10 an hour or $5 an hour, whatever they pay them to come out and mop the floors. But this is my client. I know, but they don't respect you. They don't respect you. Because you're a cleaning lady or a cleaning dude. Come on, stop it. And stay in your lane, and don't do anything outside the scope of a realtor, because no good deed goes unpunished. Now, this is really going to seem a little off color. I don't mean to be off color. I'm going to try to be very delicate with this, but this is real life stuff. You can leave your freak flag at home, right? If you have a freak flag, which some of us may, I don't know. I'm too old. I threw mine away a long time ago, or maybe it's in a drawer. Who knows? I don't know. I won't tell. But the truth is, we're all consenting adults in a free country. But do what you want, but not while engaging in realty activities. If you meet somebody that you think that your heart falls in love with, you're like, oh my gosh, I love this person. I can't wait till we get together. And you're in the middle of a transaction, please leave them alone. And if it's meant to be, they'll still be there when the transaction is over, right? Please do not engage with somebody. Inappropriate behavior can get you fined, get your license lost, get you fired, get you humiliated publicly, get your behind kicked by a mean or a bad, jealous husband or wife, or significant other, and even get criminal charges. I had a lady send me a dissertation about how this other agent was showing them houses and doing all this stuff so they could, you know, so that they could have relations with their husband. And she was so distraught, and she was going to cause all these problems. She was causing problems for everybody. I mean, do you think maybe it wasn't criminal? I don't know. I'm sure it's not criminal, but it's definitely not ethical. And then we all paid the price. I didn't even do anything myself, but I had to listen to it every day. If I didn't answer the phone, I had long messages. And if I didn't, and she was threatening all kinds of things. I've had lots of these type of things. And I've had clients, I've had open houses, people doing nasty stuff in the houses, you know, when they go show them. Please don't do that. Leave your freak flag at home. No inappropriate behavior in listings. No relations with clients or prospects until after you guys have finished your sale. Then you can do whatever you want to, because I have no say so. But I don't want to be involved in your relationship. So please, let's keep it at home. All right, I know it sounds weird, but and I say that because a lot of things happen that way, and you don't think about it because I know the heart wants what the heart wants. Well, the heart can want it after the sale. Okay, so let's just keep moving forward and you know, keep it PG. Okay, don't knock on doors of other agents' listings. Should go without saying. Don't cross the sign. Don't enter a listing without permission, and don't advertise a listing. We talked about that already. We talked a little bit about loan fraud. Lender sets the rules. If you get reimbursement, any reimbursement you give to the client, a purchase or rebates have to go through title, and the lender has to know about it. And the reason it is because that money has to be sourced and seasoned for the most part, in most cases, and that money you're giving them could go against them and say that they're committing loan fraud. Let me tell you, I don't know how many times I've heard this from a lender. I say, hey, can I reimburse my client? I need to reimburse them for repairs. Is it okay if I do it out of my commission? And they say, yeah, but I don't want to know about it. When they gave me permission, but they didn't, did they? What they said is, if you want to commit loan fraud, go ahead, but don't tell me about it. That's what they just said. So if your lender says, just don't tell me about it, do what you want. I want to make this deal go, but I don't want to know what's happening. I want you to take the risk. Do you want to take that risk of committing loan fraud? I know it sounds like a big deal, but money that you give them that doesn't go through title, if a lender gets audited and the lender's going to say, well, I didn't know, I guess that agent was a criminal, right? Any funds given outside of closing can be considered loan fraud. So make sure it goes through title company involvement. I'm going to let's see what time it is. It's 7:17. We are cooking with gas, guys. And we're going to stop here in a few minutes for questions and what have you, but never, ever, ever let a client give money to anybody other than a title company. Don't accept funds from a client. Don't accept a check other than earnest money and option, and take it and have them make it out to the title company and take it directly there. Never let your client wire funds anywhere or give a check to anyone that does not work for the title company. And I will tell you, there was a guy just recently, another investor, wholesaler, that wanted our client to give them the earnest money. They'll say, yeah, we'll take, but we want you to give us the earnest money to prove that you're really in. We don't want this deal to fall through. And that's what their story is all the time. Back in, when was it? This is 2021. So let's say 2017. It stopped me from coming to EXP for like 6 months because I was dealing with this with another company. One of our agents went and found a alternate source of financing. This company was referred to them, said, we can buy the house and then we can finance your client. We'll seller finance your client. And so we checked around. We had them give us proof of funds. We checked with the title company that they normally use, and everything seemed legitimate. And then we had 9 deals. This agent had 9 deals signed up with this. And then all of a sudden we got to a closing, and then we closed another one, but they didn't fund the deals. We're like, why aren't these deals being funded? And then all of a sudden these guys are ghosts. We don't know what's happening. Well, it turned out that they would meet with when we would refer them to these people, say, these guys are going to buy the house. They would call the client and they would meet with them, usually at a title company at the lobby or somewhere, and they would collect the money and they would say, we need 10% down because we want to make sure that the deal doesn't fall through. And these people didn't know any better. They signed and we didn't even know this was happening. The agent didn't know this was happening, but it turned out they were collecting money and everything was going fine. But then after these first 2 closings, and we weren't getting funding, and we couldn't get a hold of anybody, we finally realized that these guys stole this money. And then we found out that they've been doing this all over Texas, from McAllen to Houston, right? They had millions of dollars that they had collected from unsuspecting people. And we had 9 unsuspecting people who lost a lot of money. And at my company, I'm like, what the heck? If you would have told me this was happening, I probably would have stopped it or figured it out before we got to this point. But the agent was innocent, didn't know what was going on, had no idea. And then again, guess who got hit with the class action lawsuit? Me and my company and the agent. And we were all in this. They went to this guy that's on television all the time, and he sued the heck out of us for a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. And then the E&O insurance that we had decided they didn't want to cover us, because the way they wrote the lawsuit is that the agent defrauded the clients, and they perpetrated fraud. So the E&O insurance doesn't have to cover you if you don't have fraud. So we had to go out and hire an attorney, an insurance attorney, to fight our E&O insurance to keep them covering us, so they would still defend us. And so we had money going out left and right, and we were still worried that we were going to lose everything we were going to lose, because we weren't paying attention, because this agent didn't know that they were giving money to someone besides the title company. Thank God they got arrested, because they're stupid, and they got arrested, and they were put in jail. And that stopped that really took all the air out of it. Took a year and a half, though. It took a year and a half for them to find them. And that's why it delayed me trying to come to EXP, because I had to finish this out where I was. I didn't want to bring all this this baggage with me, because that's what happens. You never know. It's all fun and games until something crazy happens. That's why you don't want to be willy-nilly with your business. You don't want to be scared, but you have to be diligent, right? I said diligent. All right. Cannot charge clients anything. All fees must be on the contract. Do not ask clients to give you money for gas. Do not say, I'll go show you rentals if you give me $45. We had an agent do that. Or any other commission on the side. Anything that's paid to a broker is considered, to an agent's considered commission, has to be paid to the broker, through the broker, back to the agent. Okay, so make sure you're not doing that. Don't get paid on the side for anything. All commissions go to the broker, because, oh my gosh, last thing you want is for someone to go and roll you under the bus. And it's always the people you think that you can really trust. And I say this because
I had a quick question on that whenever you let me. I'm sorry.
Okay, hold it. We're coming to a stopping point very quickly. Just don't get paid on the side. It has to go through the broker, okay? Unlicensed assistants, real quick, or just give you a real quick rundown. You can get in a lot of trouble by letting an unlicensed assistant do these things. They cannot talk to clients about anything to do with real estate or the contract. They can't prospect for you. Don't hire people to call FSBOs and expired for you. Don't hire people off the internet to say we're going to get you appointments, because they're not licensed in Texas. We had this one. I'll give you a quick example, then we're going to keep rolling. This guy was calling in the Austin area. He hired some company to call expireds and set appointments. And these people were calling expired listings. And this one guy, he got a hold of a guy in Austin, and the guy said, "Who is this?" And the guy didn't want to give him his name, but he did tell him who he worked for, bless his soul. He told him, "I'm working for Joe Smith and with EXP Realty." And he goes, "Oh, so you're not licensed?" "Oh, no, I don't have a real estate license." "Oh, really? Well, I happen to work for TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission. So as far as I know, we are the only company that I know of that had a TREC complaint filed by TREC, because this employee went to TREC and they filed a complaint against us. And guess who's going to win that one, right? Well, this agent, obviously we had to fight, but we got out of it with just a little fine. Thankfully, it could have been way worse, but it took so much time. That's the thing. Worse than money sometimes is the worry and the time, the stress. Like the lawsuit I was involved in, I didn't really lose that much money. Nobody lost that much money, but the year and a half of gray hair and ulcers and everything that happened in the meantime was not worth it. No, they can't. Your unlicensed assistants can't set appointments with buyers or sellers. They can't do open houses. They can open the door, but they can't talk to anybody. They can't knock on doors. They can't practice real estate in any way. So if you're thinking about hiring or you have an unlicensed assistant, please make sure you're governing what they do, because they can get you in trouble. Last thing we'll talk about here, then I'll answer your question, and when I answer other questions, is the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, or disability. Now, let me tell you what we've ran into recently. You know how people like to run their mouth on Facebook and on Instagram, but mostly Facebook. People complain so much about other people, right? If you are complaining about, this one person said, what did they say? They said they were talking about the voters before anything happened, and they said something about when the boomers all die, when the dumb boomers all die out, then we won't have this issue, something like that, right? I don't know what it was, but this was an agent. So what that looked like to people who complain, because people see that and they go straight to us, right? If you say something on social media within an hour, Glenn Sanford and Jason Gessing already know about it, because these people go all the way to the top immediately, and then it trickles down to me. I'll know about it by the next day, and I'll try to diffuse it if I can. But by that time, it's probably too late. And this agent, they said, how can you say that you're going to comply with the Fair Housing Act when you're obviously an ageist and you don't think that people of a certain age have value? And that's what they were saying. And that could go with anything that you say in public, can be misconstrued to say, how could this person actually comply with the Fair Housing Act when they have these feelings? And it may not be true. Maybe you were just being silly. Maybe you were just trying to say something off the top of your head. But you've got to be careful. You cannot discriminate in any way against anybody. Okay, you should not have that in your blood, and if you do, you need to keep it hidden, and pray about that. Right? Make sure that you get rid of it before you get out there and start putting it online, because man, you're going to get in trouble. So make sure we're not violating the Fair Housing Act in any way, or even seeming like we are. Right? Because life will get really hard for you really, really quick.